UFC 306 takes place in September of this year. And even though no fight's been made, let alone the main event, I have taken my liberty and I've decided that I'm going to do my own fantasy booking. If I were Dana White, what fights would I make for UFC 306? And you're probably going to think a lot of these fights, some of these fights, maybe all these fights aren't realistic. But you know what? I know some of them are a bit far-fetched, that I don't think they're not realistic. I don't think they're unrealistic. And I think every single one of these fights could make sense and makes sense and could be done. You might think I'm being a bit of a casual with these picks, but I'm not. I'm actually not. I think all of these fights are credible and could be made. But will they all be made? Probably not. But look, this is my fantasy book and this is what I'm choosing. And I think they all make sense. So let's get right into it. UFC 306, mixed MMA's fantasy booking of what I would like on UFC 306 from the main card all the way down to the early prelims. Main card, main event. Let's start with the main event. Conor McGregor versus the winner of July 6th, Nate Diaz versus Masvidal. You get right away, I know you're thinking, that's not going to happen. It could. Two reasons. I don't know why I'm doing two like that. Two reasons. Reason number one, the trilogy. Reason number two, fans have wanted to see Masvidal versus McGregor for a long time, since 2019. Maybe not so much now, because Masvidal's washed up and he's shit. But look, I'm pretty sure still, if they made McGregor versus Masvidal, that would make so much noise. One of the biggest fights the UFC could make. And I think a lot of fans would still watch it, just as much as they watched it back in 2019. So I think, make that fight. Winner of Diaz versus Masvidal on July 6th faces McGregor at the Sphere at UFC 306. Yeah, makes sense. Probably, most likely will be a welterweight bout. But yeah, I think that one makes sense. Is it realistic? Yeah. But could it be done? Probably won't be done, because the co-main event of my picks will probably be the main event. But yeah, McGregor versus Diaz 3 or McGregor versus Masvidal. I think it'll be McGregor versus Masvidal, because I think Masvidal beats Diaz, but that's neither here nor there. Co-main event. Now, this fight will most likely be the main event and obviously makes sense. Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Obviously, this is probably going to be the main event, most likely. Sean O'Malley's been speaking about it for ages. He's been speaking about Ilia Topuria, but now he's starting to quieten down with that, and he's most likely accepting it. It's going to be Merab next. Obviously, got the champion versus the number one contender in the division. It's the only fight to make for Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili right now, and it makes 100% sense. And if Sean O'Malley wins this, he needs to go and fight Umar or Sandhagen. And if Merab wins this, he has to probably rematch Sean, then fight the winner of Umar, Sandhagen. And depending on how Davison Figueiredo looks, maybe Davison Figueiredo, if he beats Marlon Vera, give him a title shot, I say. Give him a title shot. But yeah, co-main event, Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili for the Bantamweight Championship of the World. I think Merab will win that. But Sean O'Malley has got obviously an amazing chance, because he's got that accuracy, that power. Merab's not going to have an easy night. It'll be tough. But I do think Merab gets it just from using cardio as a weapon. But yeah, that will cause a lot of shit, a lot of hype, a lot of build-up. O'Malley versus Dvalishvili. Third fight in, another championship match. This one is probably the championship match that everyone's expecting straight from the off, as it happened last year. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. The third fight, the rematch. Again, makes sense. Why? You got Alexa Grasso as the champion, Valentina Shevchenko as a number one contender. And also, we still need that clarity. Who is the best in that division? Is it Shevchenko? Is it Grasso? I think it's Grasso. I think it's not Grasso. I think it's Shevchenko. I think Shevchenko was absolutely winning the first fight, fucked up a bit, messed up, paid for it, because Grasso is obviously a very good fighter in her own right. But I think Shevchenko is that level above, but she made a little slip up that Grasso was expecting. So fair play. Second fight, a lot of people thought Grasso lost, and she should have lost if it weren't for that 10-8, which was a bit of a ridiculous 10-8. A lot of people think Shevchenko should have won that. No one even won it, though. It was only a draw, so it's still on. But yeah, Grasso versus Shevchenko, even for a women's fight, that's going to draw a lot of eyes. That's going to draw a lot of attention. Yeah, champion versus number one contender in their division. Mexican as well. Can't get away without making that point. Grasso's Mexican Independence Day. It's got all the makings for a fight that makes perfect sense, and for a fight that fans are going to want to see. Second fight in on the main card. Now, this is, again, a bit of a crazy one, but they both fought on the same card recently, and they both haven't really got a clear... Well, one of them does, but the other hasn't really got a clear future. Are they going to stay in the division? Are they going to fight contenders in the division still? Or are they going to go up a weight class? Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway for the BMF Championship. Now, I know that's probably just come out of nowhere, but look, I personally don't think Max should be fighting Ilia Topuria for the championship. I think it should be Volk, deservedly Volk. I know obviously Holloway's now become even more of a star getting the knockout against Gaethje. I don't care. Volk is fighting Ilia Topuria next. He deserves it as the featherweight GOAT. He will fight Ilia Topuria in December at the end of the year. It's my will, the highway. So in the meantime, what's Holloway going to do? What's Holloway going to do in the meantime? Get those money fights, get that attention. He's number 9 in the lightweight rankings. Charles Oliveira, he doesn't want to fight no other lightweights. The only other lightweights he should be fighting is Gamrot. Gamrot, he's already fought Sarukian. Yeah, literally, Gamrot. The only other fight that makes sense for Charles Oliveira, other than Max Holloway right now, would be Colby Covington and Mateusz Gamrot. He's already stated he doesn't want to fight Mateusz Gamrot. So that leaves Colby Covington and Max Holloway. I think a fight with Max Holloway would draw more eyes, so I think Charles Oliveira would be more willing to accept that fight. And it's for a belt, the BMF Championship. So you've got the number 2 lightweight, Charles Oliveira, taking on the number 9, which is way too low for Holloway. But he should be number 3, 4, 5. He should be in top 5, Holloway should. So number 2 lightweight, Charles Oliveira versus the number 9, Max Blessed Holloway for Max Holloway's BMF Championship. That's the second fight on the main card. I know you think it's crazy, but look, there's only going to be one UFC 306. There's only going to be one event in the sphere, in the history of the UFC as we know it. So look, the UFC are going to want to go out with a bang if this is the only event they're going to have for the sphere. Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, number 9 versus number 2 for the BMF Championship of the world. Now the card opener for the main card, Yair Rodriguez versus Movsar Evloev. I think this is a great fight for both. Yair Rodriguez, the number 4 featherweight. Movsar Evloev, the number 5 featherweight. Evloev isn't ready for a title shot yet, but with a win off of Yair Rodriguez, I think it's time. He's coming off of a win against Arnold Allen. Bit of a bullshit win if you ask me. I'm probably a bit biased, I'm a Brit. But Evloev's coming off a win over Arnold Allen at UFC 297. And why do you say Oliveira, bro? Yair Rodriguez is coming off a loss to Brian Ortega. So in that sense, he can have to defend his ranking now coming off a loss. He's defending his ranking over the guy one step below him in the rankings, Movsar Evloev, fighting for the number 4 spot in the featherweight division. If Yair Rodriguez wins, he's a bit in a wasteland there because you're not giving him a title shot, but you can't give him like Ortega, maybe Holloway, but he's already fought Holloway, hasn't he? So he's in a bit of no man's land there. However, Evloev probably will win. Evloev, number 5, if he gets the win, either give him the number 1, number 2, top 3 fight, or give him the title fight. Give him the title fight, Evloev. And of course, this fight makes a lot more sense as well because Yair Rodriguez is Mexican. What a perfect fight to open up the main card of a UFC Mexican Independence Day main card. UFC 306 in the sphere, the one and only time. Now, let's go down to the prelims. The main event of the prelims. People say feature fight, but I like to say main event of the prelims because it's a separate show. So let's call it the main event of the prelims. Beneil Dariush versus Rafael Fiziev. Now look, I know it's random, but I mean, not every fight has to have a Mexican on it. I know it probably will, but not every fight has a Mexican on it. We don't have to focus necessarily on the Mexican part. Let's focus more on the fact it's the only event in the sphere and it's UFC 306. With a dash of Mexico in there. We've got Mexican champion fighting. We've got other Don't worry, we've got other Mexicans on the card, don't you worry. But it's the only event in the sphere. Let's take advantage of it. Let's put some good fights on there. Main event of the prelims, the number 7 lightweight, Beneil Dariush, versus the number 8 ranked, Rafael Fiziev. Makes sense, Beneil Dariush is coming off of 2 losses to Oliveira and Sarukian. And Fiziev is coming off losses himself to Gaethje and Gamrot. But look, he's an exciting fighter. We can make exceptions. Fiziev versus Dariush should be a great fight. And obviously the winner can get a bump up in the ranks, fight someone higher than them in the ranks as well. Especially Fiziev. People love Fiziev. But yeah, the main event of the prelims, Beneil Dariush versus Rafael Fiziev in the lightweight division. No Mexicans, but look, it just makes sense. Second fight down on the prelims. Again, one that just makes sense. Song Yadong versus Rob Font. In the bantamweight division, we've got Song Yadong, the number 7 bantamweight, versus Rob Font, the number 9 ranked bantamweight. Both guys coming off losses, correct? Obviously, Song Yadong's coming off a loss against Petr Yan. Good loss. Losing against Petr Yan isn't bad. Good loss. But with that, obviously, with a loss, you've got to defend your ranking now. In my books, it's as simple as that. You've got to defend your ranking unless you're physique. There's exceptions here and there, but a lot of the time, obviously, if you've lost, you have to defend your rankings. Obviously, Song Yadong, the number 7, coming off a loss to Petr Yan, defending his ranking against the number 9, Rob Font, who himself is coming off of losses to Figueiredo and Corey Sandhagen, which, again, aren't that bad of a loss, but just for the sake of the rankings, and it's really the only match for both of them, really, the only fight for both of them. I'm sure Song Yadong, because obviously Song Yadong needs to, it's kind of more of a saving grace for Font. Font's lucky Song Yadong's come off a loss, because if Song Yadong's come off a win, you're not going to make Song Yadong go down in the rankings. So Song Yadong, number 7 versus number 9, he has to defend his ranking. Lucky for Font that he gets a fight above him in the rankings. And again, should be a brilliant fight. Song Yadong wins that boxing, and so does Rob Font. So that would just be a brilliant boxing match in the prelims. Then we've got the second fight in of the prelims, a fight that will be rebooked as it got cancelled earlier in the year. Roman Dolidze versus Anthony Hernandez. Great fight for both. Great fight for Anthony Hernandez, especially getting a fight up in the rankings, because Roman Dolidze is the number 11 ranked. Anthony Hernandez is the number 14 ranked. The reason for their cancellation cancelled bout, Anthony Hernandez had a hand injury, which he had to pull out the fight. Obviously, Anthony Hernandez is coming off a win against Roman Kopylov at UFC 298. So let's give him a fight up. Roman Dolidze is coming off a loss to Nasdin Imavov, who's fighting this weekend. So let's make Roman Dolidze defend that ranking. Let's make Hernandez have a chance to go up in the rankings, which he has a good shot. He has a very, very good shot, Anthony Hernandez does. So yeah, Roman Dolidze, Anthony Hernandez, number 11 versus number 14. Let's rebook that fight for UFC 306. And Anthony Hernandez, his last name's Hernandez. He's got to have a bit of Mexican in him. I know he comes out to the American flag, but he's got to have a bit of Mexican in him because he's, Anthony Hernandez. And he looks a bit Mexican too. Now, the opening bout of the prelims, Ketlen Vieira versus Irene Aldana, a women's fight. This one makes sense just because they're two women at the top of the division. We've got Irene Aldana, who's obviously the Mexican, opening up the prelims. So we've got Mexican opening up the main card, and we've got a Mexican opening up the prelims. It's a pretty good day, if you ask me. We've got Ketlen Vieira, obviously coming off of a win in July of the UK fight night that I went to. I'm trying to brag, but I went to that one. I was there. That was her last win in July. She had to pull out a fight in January, at the very start of the year. Not really know why, but is what it is. But let's get back in there. UFC 306 versus Irene Aldana, who her track record was her last fight was a win over Cal Rosa at UFC 296. So we've got her beating Cal Rosa. We've got Ketlen Vieira beating a nobody. So let's make them fight. Opening up the prelims. Mexican versus Brazilian. Let's throw it down. Main event of the early prelims. I almost forgot about this one. As I was making the card, I thought, wait, hold on. I haven't added Raul Rosas. Raul Rosas wants to be on the card. They're going to have Raul Rosas on the card. Let's just matchmaking for Raul Rosas. Raul Rosas versus... Raul Rosas Jr., sorry. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Cameron Simon. Now, this one, again, makes sense because they're pretty close to each other in the rankings. Obviously, Rosas is coming off wins over Bryce Mitchell and will most likely come off a win against Ricky Tercios this weekend. And Cameron Simon, unfortunately, is coming off a loss. We love Cameron Simon, but unfortunately, he's coming off a loss, so he's going to have to fight Raul Rosas, who is below him in the rankings on Topology. He's below him on the rankings on Topology. So let's get Cameron Simon in there, who obviously has losses to Christian Rodriguez and Peyton Talbot, which was in March. He's obviously going to have time to recover up until September. Let's get him in there against Raul Rosas. And that'll be a good test because Cameron Simon, I know, he's obviously come off 2 losses now, but he will be a good test for Raul Rosas. And Raul Rosas, he's becoming a star and he can't be boring, so he's got to have some good, hard fights. That'll be entertaining for the fans. He's got Raul Rosas in there, the Mexican, fighting for his Mexican heritage to represent Mexico versus Cameron Simon, who's going to be his test. Who'll win that one? I don't know. That's a pretty close one. Cameron Simon versus Raul Rosas Jr., main event of the early prelims. Book it. Makes a lot of sense. Second fight down in the early prelims, Chaos Williams versus Michael Morales. Again, If you search upon UFC.com and you search up active Mexicans, it comes up with Michael Morales. But yeah, he's Ecuadorian, so let's just say he's Mexican as well, because hey, that's what UFC says. Yeah, Chaos Williams is Michael Morales. Again, we're trying to build the star of Michael Morales here, more so than Chaos Williams. However, Chaos Williams has been on a 2-fight win streak, and his last win was in May against Carlson Harris. So it's like he should fight up, but look, mate, you're not really... What's the phrase? I don't know. You're not really there yet, pal. We kind of want to build this other star on the side, Michael Morales. We want to test him against you. Hopefully he beats you and builds his credibility even more. Michael Morales, on the other hand, 16-0, and last win was in November. So quite a while ago, but I'm sure he won't want to fight anytime soon because he'll probably end up missing out on the chance to fight on UFC 306 on Mexican Independence Day. So Chaos Williams versus Michael Morales. Let's book it. Second fight in on the whole card. Second fight in on the early prelims. Vince Pitchell. This is, again, one to kind of build a younger fighter. I know, call me horrible, but it's got to be done. It's a business, as Dana White says. Vince Pitchell versus Daniel Zellhuber. Obviously, we're trying to build Daniel Zellhuber here. Again, another Mexican. See, we're starting to bring in the Mexicans now. As we're going down, further down, we're starting to bring in more heavy amounts of Mexicans. Daniel Zellhuber, the Mexican, versus Vince Pitchell. Vince Pitchell is coming off of 2 losses. His last one was in May to Bonfim. He didn't look awful though. But yeah, Vince Pitchell versus Daniel Zellhuber. Again, a shot up in the rankings on Topology, a shot up in the rankings for Zellhuber, giving him the opportunity to look like a star, giving him an opportunity to get a highlight reel, to get another win. He's coming off of 3 wins himself, the last one in February. So he's got a good track record for himself as well. This will help build more momentum for Daniel Zellhuber, build his stock, build his credibility, help him become a bigger star in the division. Unfortunately for Vince, at the expense of Vince Pitchell, who probably hasn't got that long in the UFC anyway. So, cry me a river. Then finally, or early, starting off, the first fight of the other prelims, the first fight of the night, Malcolm Gordon versus Edgar Chairez Jr. Again, what is it, Junior? Edgar Chairez. Don't know if it's Junior. Edgar Chairez versus Malcolm X Gordon. Edgar Chairez, Mexican. Let's just get the Mexican on the card, I guess. Versus Malcolm Gordon, who is good but hasn't looked good in the UFC. Edgar Gordon. Malcolm Gordon, obviously, unfortunately, he's on a 3-fight losing streak since February. Not since February, but in a 3-fight losing streak. His last loss was in February, where he unfortunately missed weight. He missed weight in his last fight, so it's not looking good for Malcolm Gordon. Another loss, they're going to give him the boot. But look, we're trying to start off with a good, decent fight. And then, yeah, versus Edgar Chairez. Edgar Chairez last win was in February, where he actually also missed weight. He also missed weight, but at least he actually won via a triangle submission. But yeah, that will be the opening fight of the card. Malcolm X Gordon versus Edgar Chairez to start off. Canadian versus Mexican on Mexican Independence Day. Makes sense. Malcolm Gordon's above him in the rankings. So let's give Edgar Chairez a chance to shine in front of not a hometown, but a home crowd for sure. Mexican Independence Day. UFC 306 in the Sphere. It's going to be a crazy card. It's going to be a crazy show. I trust the UFC. I believe it is going to be one of the best mixed martial arts shows ever. One of the best shows ever. And I think we all got to just sit back and relax, get your popcorn, get your friends around you, get your friends and family, and watch an amazing show. That will be UFC 306. But anyway, that was my fantasy matchmaking of UFC 306. What I'd like to see on UFC 306. What makes sense? I think every single fight on that card can be made. Yes, some will be harder than others. But look, if this is the only fight in the Sphere, let's make it a good one. That is my video. That is my fantasy. I don't know why I paused so long there. I was just trying to think of a really cool outro. Excellent video. I'm dragging it on now. That was my UFC 306 fantasy. What do you think of my booking? I think it's pretty good, but that's neither here nor there. Make sure to watch my next video, a breakdown of UFC Fight Night Louisville, Cannonier versus Imavov. Make sure to watch it. It'll probably come out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, perhaps. Yeah, detailed breakdown of every fight on the main card. Make sure to watch it. Be there or be square. See you later.